I hope you're well and welcome to another video. Today guys, I am doing a video that's been requested for a long time. I am going to write out a complete pretzel paragraph. But before I begin doing all that stuff, let's talk about a paragraph for English literature, because a lot of you guys are having assessments in school and you're asking me loads of different questions about essay writing. Now here is what I teach. An essay for English literature does not need an introduction and it does not need a conclusion. Now you can do one if it makes your teacher happy, but based upon the mark scheme and based upon the AOs, there is no need for an intro or a conclusion. You're aiming for four main paragraphs. Now this structure, guys, that I'm talking about can be used for every essay other than the poetry and the unseen poetry. So you're aiming for four main paragraphs and you're looking to spend approximately 11 minutes per paragraph, which is a good amount of time. It gives you enough time to write a thorough and to write a detailed response. Now, in each paragraph, you have to hit AO1, AO2 in every single paragraph. And in one or two of the four paragraphs, we will aim for AO3. Now, very quickly, guys, what is AO1? AO1 is the quality of your point and the quality of your quote. AO2 is the effect of language, structure, and form. And AO3 is have you spoken about context. Now, this is the structure that I teach. In paragraph 1, begin your essay by analyzing language. This could be a simile, it could be a metaphor, hyperbole, pathetic fallacy. You decide whatever is available in your chosen quote. In this same paragraph, also discuss context. Could be patriarchy, could be religion, could be Freud's id, ego, superego. You pick what context. That is your first paragraph. And then in paragraph 2, guys, you will discuss and analyze not language, but this time structure and form, because they go hand in hand. So for example, if I'm doing Macbeth, then I would talk about how the structure of Macbeth is pretty quick. It's a fast-paced play. He becomes king by Act 2. He becomes Thane of Cawdor in Act 1. He becomes king in Act 3. He becomes Thane of Cawdor in Act 1. He kills the king in Act 2. The pace is really quick. Now, why is this important? The structure of the play can be linked to the form. The form of Macbeth is what? Macbeth is a play. A play is performed on stage, normally for 2 hours in length. Therefore, you haven't got time to take your time. Things have to move quick because the writer is thinking about this as a performance, not as a play to be read. So guys, paragraph 1 is language. Paragraph 2 is structure and form. Paragraph 3, we go back and we analyze, this time, just language. Could be a simile, metaphor, again, you pick. And in paragraph 4, we analyze language, and again, this time we add context. So we start and end exactly the same. In between, we have structure and form and language. And if you have an essay that has 4 paragraphs like that, then you have an essay that has addressed AO1, AO2, and AO3 throughout the entire essay. Now, of course, that's a very basic outline that I've given. I've not talked about how to do the point, the reference, the technique, because that's what I'm about to do now. Okay guys, so this is the question that we will be focusing on for now. Read the following extract from Act 1, Scene 3 of Macbeth and then answer the question that follows. At this point in the play, after receiving the witches' prophecies, Macbeth and Banquo have been told that Duncan has made Macbeth the Thane of Cawdor. And then we have our extract and then we have our question. Our question says, starting with this moment in the play, explore how Shakespeare presents the attitudes of Macbeth and Banquo towards the supernatural. Alright guys, there's our question. Now, because we're only planning one paragraph, I'm not going to read the entire extract because because otherwise this video would be long for no reason. Strange and oftentimes to win us to our harms, the instruments of darkness tell us truths, win us with honest trifles, to betray us in deepest consequence. Cousins, a word, I pray you. Now, I am going to use a quote from Banquo's little speech there. The quote, guys, that I am going to use is the quote, the instruments of darkness tell us truths. The instruments of darkness tell us truths. That is the quote that I will be using for my first paragraph. Now, if I was doing the entire essay, guys, just so you know, if I was doing the entire essay, I would then go and pick one more quote from what Macbeth says. So I will have two quotes from my extract. As the first bullet point says, guys, look at how Shakespeare presents supernatural in the extract. And then I would go and look for two quotes from the whole text. So I will have two paragraphs about the extract and two paragraphs about the whole text. Now that I have got, guys, now that I have got my quote, let's now begin to plan my paragraph. Okay, guys, so now it is about planning my first paragraph. My paragraph plan that I've always taught and that I've always used is a pretzel paragraph. Point, reference, technique, explain effect, zoom in, explain effect, and link. That is the structure, guys, that I use for every single piece of writing. Your point and your reference is your AO1. The rest of it is your AO2. Now, let's forget AO3 for a second. We'll bring that in towards the end. Now, the first thing I did is where it says reference, I put my quote. The instruments of darkness tell us truths. Now, in this quote, I must pick out a language technique or a structural technique. For now, I will do language. Now, I will pick out the fact that it is a metaphor because the instruments of darkness is indeed a metaphor. Then I must think about, in this quote, after I've explained the effect of the metaphor, what do I want to zoom in? Which part of this quote do I think is the most interesting, is the most effective? Now, the one part of the quote, guys, that I will be zooming into is the noun instruments. And guys, this is the part of the quote that I will be zooming into. And this is the noun instruments. Now I've got my my reference and my technique and my zooming in done. Now, what's my point? What does this quote tell us about how Banquo views the supernatural? Now, guys, this is going to be interesting. I'm going to argue the instruments of darkness tell us truths. Guys, I'm going to argue that Banquo here seems to be a little bit confused. And also, guys, I'm going to talk about later how Banquo also almost underestimates. So guys, how Banquo also almost underestimates the witches. He seems to know all the problems about them, but he holds back from actually doing anything. Does he actually believe what he says? Or is he a little bit confused? Does he think he knows what he's talking about? Does he think he understands the supernatural? But really he hasn't got a clue. Just like every other character in Macbeth, is Banquo also a victim of the supernatural because he thinks he knows them, but he hasn't got a clue. Just like Macbeth. Just like Lady Macbeth. Alright, now, what's the effect of the metaphor? The instruments of darkness. Remember, guys, it's only a plan. I'll make 2 points. It shows us, guys, that they are evil. Guys, it shows us that Banquo understands that they are evil. And I'm going to talk about how it spreads. Darkness. It spreads far and wide. And this is going to be the idea about how the evil of the witches doesn't just affect one person. Like darkness, it spreads. Now, the noun instruments. What do you do to an instrument, guys? For my second effect, you play it. And this begs the question. Guys. The witches are going to literally play with what? They are going to play with the lives of the characters. Remember, guys, this is just a plan. When I turn it into a paragraph, you will see me add the meat to the bones. And then, what's my link? My link is very basic, guys. the purpose of my link, guys, the purpose of my link is to make sure that I've not gone off task. That is the sole purpose of my link. So all I will say in my link is, therefore, as you can see, Banquo views Supernatural as somewhat of a confused character and he underestimates their power, blah, blah. If you struggle to make your link, that might mean that you've gone off task. And guys, there you go. There is a pretzel paragraph planned. Done. Now, earlier I said to you guys that this only currently has AO1 and AO2. If, for example, this was a paragraph that I was going to bring in context, then I would put context, guys. I would put context right here. My context would go after my first effect and before I zoom in. This is where I, guys, would bring in context if this was a paragraph where I would be using context. Now, the reason context is not an integral part of the paragraph is simply because I'm not doing context every single paragraph, but I am doing PRTEZEL every single paragraph. In the paragraph that I will structure and form, my technique will become a structural technique. When I zoom in, I will zoom into the form, and that's it. But we use the same structure over and over and over again to plan our paragraphs, because in my opinion, Peter and PL and Pebble and Power Rangers are a little bit too basic. To get that top mark for being perceptive, for being detailed, you almost want to really try your best to make sure that you are zooming in, that you are dissecting the language. Alright guys, plan done. Now let's turn this plan into a paragraph. The play Macbeth, Banquo appears to be a character who initially seems to show a good understanding of the witches. However, as the play develops, is he, like many of the other characters, a confused of the three weird sisters? This can be argued when he describes the witches, the instruments of darkness. Tell us truth. Okay, let's explain the effect of the quote. Now, as you know, the use of a metaphor is highly effective here, and it strongly emphasizes the evil nature of the witches. Their darkness is not targeted at one character. Just the way darkness spreads, so does the evil of the witches. Furthermore, the idea of the witches spreading darkness can be linked also to the idea of them destroying and resolving any good, any hope, any positivity that exists in the lives characters, similar to how darkness destroys light. Alright guys, that is my first E complete. We zoom in to the noun instruments of Bangkok seems to come through even more. He appears to understand that just the way you play an instrument, the witches will play the characters in the play. However, he does nothing about it. Is this because he underestimated these women? It's clear to see that Bangkok as a character does appear to have a good grasp on the evil nature of the witches. However, his lack of effort in doing anything about what they say forces the reader to ponder if he underestimated the power of the supernatural. Guys, so there is a paragraph that I have just written. I've made a few tweaks, I've made a few changes, but as you can see guys, there is the basic structure of a pretzel paragraph. P, R, T, E, Z, E, and L. The two biggest parts of the paragraph are the blue, and these are my two parts where I am explaining the effect. Now, all I would do guys in an exam is I would do a paragraph like this 4 times. As I said in the beginning of the video, I would do 2 paragraphs like this where I analyze language. In paragraph 2, so if it's paragraph 1, in paragraph 2, I would change the first effect and talk about the effect of a structural device. And for my zooming in, I would talk about the effect of form. In my third paragraph, I would talk about language and I would bring in some context. But guys, here is an example of a pretzel paragraph. Now guys, I hope that paragraph helped. I hope the planning helped. I'm going to wrap the video up pretty soon because guys, believe it or not, I'm teaching in about 3 minutes and the class is waiting around the corner. Now, pretzel paragraph guys, use it in your exam. What I showed you guys was an exemplar paragraph. Tweak it, change it, make it better, go into more detail, add some context. But I just wanted to give you guys a breakdown of the PRTEZEL structure for your exam. Use it for every English literature essay other than the poetry comparison. Alright guys, as always, thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. If you're not following me on TikTok and if you're not following me on Instagram, then please do follow. If you haven't clicked subscribe, please do subscribe so you can watch the videos on a regular basis. It's been Mr. Everything English, guys. Peace.